Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News, No Noise. Big developments tonight in the ongoing Russiagate saga. A grand jury has issued new subpoenas as the criminal case against former FBI Director James Comey moves closer to trial. Now, prosecutors say that fresh evidence has come to light linking key players in what they are calling a coordinated effort to weaponize federal power against President Donald Trump. Now, as we have talked about, we've talked about this many times on the show, but before we bring in our guest, John, I know you've got a statement that you want to read. So
yeah, the Georgia attorney, I told you at the top of the show, got pardoned. He just sent me a statement confirming it. Although I didn't have any idea that a presidential pardon was even being considered, I want to thank President Trump for calling me and telling me. So the president really calls him and tells him he's pardoning him, that he was issuing a federal pardon for my efforts to conduct an audit of the absentee ballots of Fulton County in connection with the 2020 election. The only thing I ever wanted was transparency from Fulton County. If the county has nothing to hide, it should allow DOJ to examine these ballots. But there are some pardons dropping right now. We got two of them confirmed at the top of the show. But this statement from Bob Cheeley, really prominent and well-respected lawyer in Georgia who was put through hell in the Fulton County episode. So more news to come, I suspect.
Another pardon, Mike McMahon, whose wife Martha McMahon we had on the show to talk about his case. That's another one.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot that.
All right, so let's have a pardon talk with a former U.S. attorney as well as the person who actually alerted the FBI to the Hunter Biden bribery allegations all the way back in 2018. One of our favorite lawyers to talk to, Bud Cummins. Bud, thanks so much for being here.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to have you on this Friday night, and a lot of folks who are delighted to hear that President Trump has pardoned them. I'm pretty sure that President Trump signed them by hand, though.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to do any auto pen pardons with President Trump. I think he likes to have his fingerprints right on it.
Absolutely. Sir, I want to dig into something that the magistrate judge in Alexandria levied against the Department of Justice. With this trial happening for James Comey across the river in Northern Virginia. She repudiated the DOJ, said that they were indicting first and investigating later. She demanded any of those grand jury materials and evidence be turned over to Comey's team, I think at close of business yesterday. Does it seem to you like that's true, that the DOJ really did sling charges out there and then investigated later? Because you would have to have a lot of material for a grand jury to even get the indictments in the first place, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I don't want to come on too strong on this because I think that there is a possibility that they had not gathered all the information that was probably available to them, and they got out front with an indictment. The indictment was pretty simple. He lied and he obstructed justice, and that evidence was pretty straightforward. It looks like that they're now gathering up other documents that'll, kind of support the case, and the judge may be onto something that they are still investigating and still using the grand jury to investigate. And there are limitations on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sir, one of the things that we learned on Monday in that explosive court filing was that there is a crime they're looking at having potentially occurred in January of this year, long after Russiagate was done. And according to the electronic communication that the FBI opened that was attached to the court filing on Monday, FBI personnel were going in and out of a room, apparently trying to hide documents or put them in burn bags to be destroyed. And the U.S. government says in its own words, some of these documents had never before been seen or turned over to responsive agencies who had subpoenaed such information. Does that sound like years after Russiagate or these other things, there might have been a cover-up going on?
Oh, I think absolutely. That some of the people that had their fingerprints on, this going back to 2016, 2017 and on are still in the building. And I'm sure there's still some sympathizers in the building. So it wouldn't shock me at all to learn that people have been trying to bury evidence.
What happens to those employees if they are still with the department? What happens to them? I mean, they get fired, right? But charges for them?
I would like to think that there is, but I'm not seeing even today FBI being very aggressive about internal investigations and punishment. So I think that there's a natural tendency to circle the wagons, even if you're Kash Patel. I mean, certainly we saw Chris Wray do it. Once you're in the agency, I think to some extent there's a tendency to want to minimize controversy and maybe not go looking for trouble. So I'm not sure everybody's going to be held accountable in these agencies. And that's really sad because they've done such tremendous damage.
Yeah. That would be a tremendous loss to the American people who are owed this accountability after 10 years of fake scandals and misuse of power. You are one of my favorite stories because I saw you as a U.S. attorney. You had impeccable credentials. You stood up in the face of other conduct in the government. You always came out on the side of doing the right thing. And in 2018-19, you come forward because you have information from Ukraine that Hunter Biden may not have paid his taxes on some of the grifting money he got from the Ukrainian company. You bring it to federal prosecutors. You are a really well-respected former U.S. attorney. They don't pursue it, but you later learned that you were retributed against and that you were actually targeted for doing the right thing. Tell us what you learned about the retribution that was going on behind your back.
Well, some of the companies like Apple and Google, when they get a federal subpoena, they're prohibited from telling the person that their information has been subpoenaed immediately, but they're allowed to after some period of time. So years down the road, I started getting notices that I'd been the subject of subpoenas out of the Southern District of New York, presumably related to me trying to offer the federal government information about Hunter Biden. I've always said I don't really have a problem with them trying to take a look at me and seeing who I'm talking to and what's motivating me to come forward with this extraordinary offer of evidence. I do have a problem with them ignoring the extraordinary offer of evidence completely, which is what they did, and then investigating me. But that's what happened. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm still waiting for my friends in the investigative journalism field to uncover all the details of what happened and why.
All right, we're going to work on this because this is a big deal. And you find out like 4 or 5 years after the fact, right? You're in the dark for 5 years that they were rifling. Yeah, it's insane. You're a former prosecutor. Was there anything that you did that would have given you, as a prosecutor, grounds to go after yourself or to look at someone like you bringing information forward?
Well, like I said, I mean, I think I would have been naturally want to know, well, you know, who gave this information to Bud and asked him to, because obviously they had it in their minds. It was rife throughout the agencies that there was some kind of conspiracy, Russian collusion, whatever you want to call it. You know, were the Russians paying me to come forward with some kind of fake allegations against Hunter Biden? Yeah. I don't have a problem with them trying to verify my credibility, but the way they turned a blind eye to the offer of evidence is pretty astounding.
Yeah. But over your years in the law field and in working with the FBI hand in hand, I want to ask you about something that you said a moment ago about not wanting to stir the pot, not wanting to bring about any type of scandal for the FBI. Before Kash Patel became the director, he made a joke, and he said afterwards that it was a joke, but he said that he wanted to gut the FBI building, something to that effect, gut it, and turn it into a museum exposing the deep state. Again, he was joking, but he does seem to have this mentality that it is an agency that needs to be cleaned out. Does it surprise you that you haven't seen more of those internal investigations bring forth some of those scandals that maybe existed prior to his tenure?
Yeah, and I don't blame him. They have had so much on their plate. I think it's kind of a product of the deep state, the bureaucracy underneath him. I think all those, there's a real culture problem in FBI. There's a real culture problem at DOJ. And that's what when he makes his joke, that's what needs to be cleaned out. And it probably would, to be done correctly, would take a pretty massive overhaul of both DOJ and FBI. I don't know if, he has the political capital and the time to actually do that. And I know he's trying to do his best, but, we've talked about this before, but I'm old enough to remember Watergate. And the most serious allegation against Richard Nixon was that he was on tape talking about asking CIA to help him politically. Asking. Didn't get it, asked it. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He had to resign the presidency, and 2 or 3 generations have been taught since that was the worst political scandal of our time. Well, now we have hard evidence that FBI and CIA conspired to kneecap an incoming president of the United States. And they successfully impeded his ability to govern for at least 2 years, if not the entire first term. somebody needs to be held accountable for all that, and it's going to take intensive investigation, but it's not political retribution. If what Nixon did deserves to be in every high school history book and in big letters as the worst scandal in political history, this certainly needs to be investigated and documented because it's so much worse, and it's ruined the image and the reputation and the credibility of federal law enforcement.
So we just got about 45 seconds left. An allegation that you brought to them was that Hunter Biden was cheating on his taxes, specifically on payments he got from Burisma. 3-4 years later, when the whistleblowers come forward and they confirm exactly what the information you brought to prosecutors was accurate, that they had also confirmed he had not paid taxes on his Burisma money, what did you think?
When I offered the evidence, I had no idea what it was or the background. I just knew that there was a high-level individual in Ukraine that was offering to come tell the story and bring documentary evidence. It sounded plausible to me at the time. It was pretty bad, but it played out exactly like it was presented to me in 2018.
Lost 4 years of time.
The sun, the moon, and the truth eventually come out. Hopefully that a lot of these other untruths that we've been talking about come out in our lifetime, but you never know. Things take time. Bud Cummins, always a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much.
Good to see y'all. Bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side.